Hey everybody, it's Mimi with the dailyfastingblog.com, and today I'm going to be doing a follow-up to my previous vlog, which was about hunger, and that is the difference between somatic hunger and limbic hunger. Somatic hunger being true hunger, those physiological changes that take place in the body and the cues that we get that our body really needs nourishment, such as a drop in blood sugar, for example, that might trigger for some people lack of concentration, inability to concentrate as well, or irritability for some people. So physiological changes that happen in the body, as opposed to limbic hunger, which is more related to cravings and hormonal changes and sort of psychological cues that tell us that we're hungry when we really don't necessarily need that nourishment. So we talked about those differences, but we didn't talk about what do you do when you discover that, for example, it's limbic hunger, but nevertheless you're still hungry, and you still feel that temptation to maybe eat outside of your window. What do you do about that? Well, I have a couple of tips and tricks for that. But first of all, to let you know that the more you fast, I've found the less you have to sort of rely on those things. After a while, that little bit of hunger just really doesn't have the overpowering effect that it once did. So the longer you fast, the less you'll have to rely on these. But at first, it might be a struggle. So here are a couple things that I did in the past. One is distraction. That's probably the top um, tip and trick is to keep yourself busy and keep yourself distracted. I've found that when people say to me, "Oh, this has been, I've had a really rough day sticking to my window," my first question is, "Oh, did you stay busy or did you have some kind of extra time on your hands?" And most of the time, it's the times when, we have kind of downtime where we're not that busy that we struggle with fasting the most. For the most part, if you stay busy, keep yourself distracted, fasting hours go a lot faster. The other thing is if you really just are struggling, there's a couple things that you can do as far as foods that you can eat that will not break your fast. One thing that I do, and I still do this, and that is chew gum. Now, for some people, that opens up limbic hunger. The minute they start chewing, they want to eat other foods, and it doesn't work. For me, it's just fine. It doesn't open up that limbic hunger for me, and I do chew sugarless gum throughout the day, probably 2 or 3 sticks a day, and that works just fine. The other thing is spirulina. Spirulina has nominal calories, but it does provide a little bit of nourishment. It's a great product anyway. And I would put that in a little bit of water, like a capsule in a little bit of water, and that would just knock out my hunger. Again, for some people, it might open up limbic hunger, but it's worth giving it a try. But probably next to distraction, my number two tip would be white tea with saffron. I drank this for many months when I first started fasting, and it really, really, really helps. First of all, white tea alone is a natural, mild appetite suppressant. White tea, as you might know, is the least processed of all teas, so it's in the most natural state, and so it has very nominal caffeine, and it's a natural appetite suppressant just on its own without a whole lot of caffeine if that's a concern for you. And you combine that with saffron, about 2 or 3 threads of saffron. For those of you who don't know, saffron is a spice used pretty frequently in Middle Eastern cooking. Spanish, there's a Spanish dish called paella, if you've ever had it, that uses saffron. And it basically it's the most expensive spice in the world, by the way, but you can get it at fairly reasonable prices in small quantities. It doesn't take a whole lot. but they come in little threads, and you put a couple of threads with white tea, make a delicious white tea with saffron, and that will knock out your hunger. Saffron has a sort of mood elevation, mood lifting effects. It's actually been compared to a mild dose of Prozac. So it's just a great, and combined with white tea, which is a mild appetite suppressant, it's a great combination. And as I said, I've used it very frequently and it really does work great. You can actually find the recipe and how to make saffron tea on my website, thedailyfastingblog.com. So I hope those tips help. If you have others that you'd like to share, please go ahead and do so in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe to my blog for more tips and tricks. And until next time, please be sure to follow my journey at thedailyfastingblog.com. I'm also on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter at dailyfastblog. Until next time. What do you eat? How do you do that?